I am aware that all these bloodlines can be very confusing, but have no worries, I will not leave you in confusion. Hopefully, the following numbered lists will help the reader sort this out. In summary, the following elite, minion, species were created before and after the deluge, in descending order. 1. The Lucifer-Isis seed line. This bloodline was the original elite bloodline, which Enki created long before the deluge, the minions he initiated into his mystery schools and secret societies. These minions became Lucifer's high priests. However, even after the deluge, Lucifer and Isis continued creating this bloodline for a while, until Isis escaped. This bloodline exists up to this day, and those who belong to it consider themselves being of higher rank than the other two bloodlines below. The Lucifer-Isis bloodline is called the Luciferian elite bloodline. 2. The Marduk-Isis seed line. After Enki was castrated by Ninurta, he let his son, Marduk, the biblical Satan, take over the breeding business. He had him marry Isis, and together they created the first satanic elite bloodline. 3. The Marduk-Ereshkigal seed line. When Isis escaped, Ereshkigal took over the task of seeding an elite bloodline. This is the main elite bloodline in today's world, and is the second satanic elite bloodline. Something Enki and Marduk may, or may not, have anticipated when they created these three versions of elite bloodlines was that these bloodlines would start fighting against each other to win the Creator God's favor. Mentioned above, those of the first Luciferian elite bloodline feel superior to the others because of their more ancient lineage. Many wars throughout history have had totally different causes than what people have been told, and some of them have really been wars over territories and real estate. Sometimes the three elite groups work together because after all, they are fighting toward a common goal. Yet, they often disagree on how to get there and who is supposed to have the most control. We see this struggle repeatedly in today's world, as well as in the old world, and as usual, it's us, the common population, who have had to suffer the most. When we are listing the rest of the different races here on Earth throughout history, it becomes much more complicated because the DNA of many different star races has been used in a multitude of experiments. We have often discussed how Enki and his cohorts tried many different ideas before they agreed upon which race or species should be the primary one. Sometimes, they just terminated the mistakes they made, and entire species were killed off, while at other times, they let their mistakes be, and they just continued their experimentations. Hence, it's virtually impossible to list all of that, and of course, similar to any other researcher on these subjects, I only know of a handful of all these different varieties of genetic manipulations that have been done throughout time. Therefore, I'm just going to list 3 of the ones that still existed after the flood and up until this day. 1. Homo sapiens sapiens. The flood was supposed to wipe out all of humanity in conjunction with all the abominable races in existence on the planet at that particular time, but the DNA of some of these races, perhaps all of them, were saved, as we shall see later. After the flood had subsided and the water subsided, new experimentations in genetics started again. A new version of Homo sapiens, now named Homo sapiens sapiens, the thinking man, was created. That is of course us, the general population. We are created through a gigantic mix of different DNA from many different species, both pre-existing here on Earth and from beings from the stars. 2. The Nephilim bloodline. Many people think that this bloodline was wiped out with the flood, but this is not the case. This bloodline has been traced to many different parts of the world and still exists today. The Nephilim are the offspring of Lucifer's fallen angels and pre-existing humans and apes, which resulted in the giants of old. However, most of these offspring were created in genetic laboratories on Earth and on Mars. The point is that these experiments were unauthorized and done mainly by the Pleiadians, who themselves were giants. As we've discussed in a previous level of learning, the Pleiadians have admitted to this in channeling sessions with Barbara Marciniak as the channeler, Some of these giants fled underground just before the flood, while others survived by fleeing to higher ground. Their genes were also kept safe together with other DNA while the flood was raging. Giants have since then been more common on our planet than the general population thinks. Both in Canada and in the United States, huge creatures were allegedly still walking around in the wilderness when the white man came, and legends about these giants have been kept in memory by the native Indians. In general, stories about encounters with giants have been quite common in many cultures all over the world, until perhaps 250 years ago. Since then, the encounters have been less, and when they happened, they have been suppressed by the media. 3. Giants. I am listing giants in their own category because that makes more sense to me. Some researchers call this the giant gene. When they use this term, they are normally referring to people who are in the approximate range of 7 feet and up. In society in general, we rarely see someone taller than 7 feet, but in other parts of the world, larger beings than that have been spotted and encountered. Giant skulls and skeletons of beings of very large stature have been found by archaeologists and general people all over the planet, and some pictures have been taken, and videos have been posted on YouTube. Two great researchers in this field are Brian Forster and Steve Quayle. Although some of these pictures may have been faked and posted by intelligence agencies, and others, in order to counter the real pictures out there so that matters can be confused, but there are quite a few pictures that can't be explained. Giants were, and are, a part of the Nephilim, but not all giants are Nephilim. The last, but certainly not the least, important species I need to mention, here in its own category is, 1. Ladies of Fire, the second race of Namliyu. This is the species which Isis created on her own while visiting her father Ninurta's old mountain, Paradise, the Garden of Eden of old. This is a recreation of the primordial mankind, the androgynous Namliyu. Shamans who can create life without copulating with a male, but who can also reproduce by having normal intercourse. This species will become very important as our story progresses. These ladies of fire are still here on this planet today, many are in hiding, while others eventually blended in with the rest of society and created families and married men amongst Homo sapiens sapiens. In addition, we could actually add another race of humans to the second list above. 4. Human/Namliyu hybrids. These hybrids would look just like you and me but, perhaps, have more red in their hair and a fairer skin. The people of Ireland come to mind, and although not all Irish women are Namliyu hybrids, many of them probably are. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, the ladies of fire must have had a resort on the British Isles, and particularly in Ireland. How do we look at women with red hair in general? As fiery, more energetic than average, determined, and having a strong will and strong intentions. Could we perhaps also add that red-haired women are more psychic than average? We see both women and men everywhere in society who have the attributes of red, or reddish, hair and fair, sensitive skin. We don't even think twice when we see them. They blend in with the rest of society with its huge variety of human hybrid races. I understand that some of the above statements are generalizations, but I do believe there is some truth to it. Not that I am proud to share beliefs with the former Nazis, but they also believed that women with long, red hair had more psychic power and abilities than women in general. The Vril Society, which consisted of a group of red-haired women, often with extraordinary long hair, started out in the early 1900s as a society which used the Vril power, the primordial power of the universe, compared with the Force in George Lucas' Star Wars movies, to increase their psychic abilities. It is said that they used their hair as an antenna to pick up and to send the Vril energy. I wrote a lot about this secret society in my e-book, The Myth Around Supreme David Rockefeller, back in 200921, and told the story of Maria Orsic and her group of psychic women, who later were used by Hitler and the Nazi Party to channel information from the Anunnaki. Maria, in particular, managed to get in touch with a group of ETs which were located around the star of Aldebaran in the constellation of Taurus, to which the Pleiades also belongs. These ETs were said to be the Sumerian gods, and Enki in particular was mentioned. We know that Enki fled to Aldebaran after his rebellion and created a hybrid race there. Maria Orsic and some of the Vril women suddenly disappeared from the face of the earth, never to be seen again. This happened just before the end of World War II. The legend states that these women went to Aldebaran, and some say that Hitler went there, too, and that the body they found in the bunker was not that of Adolf Hitler. If any of this is true or not, I have no way of knowing at this time. The Vril women could just as well have been murdered. They could also have been transported in secret to the US as a part of Operation Paperclip, the U.S. government would certainly have been interested in their abilities. Still, if they did, I doubt that these women would have cooperated with the Americans. The Vril women had great integrity. Would they work under torture? It's impossible to know. What is quite interesting in all this, however, besides their connection with Nazi Germany, no, they were not Nazis, is the connection between the Vril women and how they connected with the Pleiades. Were these Vril women in fact Isis's Namliu, the ladies of fire who had been in hiding for centuries? Their long, red hair and their psychic abilities make me wonder. If so, it raises a number of questions. 1. Were they actually murdered, with their bodies hidden, and the records of what happened erased? 2. If so, who killed them? The Nazis or the Allies? 3. Did they just flee and went back into hiding? 4. Were they kidnapped, either by the Nazis or by the Allies? 5. Were they indeed going to Aldebaran? If so, knowing that it is Enki's territory, what happened to them there? 6. Moreover, if they were Isis's ladies of fire, why did they come out in the open as they did? These are many questions that we don't know the answers to. If we start researching this subject, we get many different opinions and answers, some more likely than others, but there is no substantial evidence of what really happened to these women.